welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast brought to you by the Who You Know Network. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. I hope you're ready for some serious knowledge bombs. We got a great program we're going to talk about today, doing some amazing things for our community. We got Manny Vera with us today. From here tomorrow, he's going to tell us all about the program, what they got going on. Can't wait to hear more about it. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Eric. Eric, how are you doing today?
Dude, I'm excited, man. I'm pumped up to hear Manny's story, first of all, right? Because that's my big thing. Like, I want to hear his story, but I really want to hear about what this organization does, dude. I'm excited. I'm excited for our listeners to be able to hear about it and just to kind of absorb what's out there. So I'm ready to go to work, dude. Let's get it.
Oh, absolutely. So we got Manny Vera, who's an Army veteran and veteran advocate. He served close to 10 years in the Army as an MP. During his time in the service, he served in various law enforcement leadership positions from patrol to law enforcement operations NCO. Upon transition, he switched careers and moved into the mental health field. Episode after episode seems like a natural transition. Go from MP to mental health professional. Can't wait to hear how that transition worked. He currently serves as a military peer recovery specialist for a suicide prevention nonprofit called Here Tomorrow, located in Neptune Beach, Florida. He aspires to become a licensed mental health clinician to continue to serve the veteran demographic. Amazing calling that you have, Manny. Can't wait to get into that. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, Shawn. Hey, thank you guys for what you guys do and give me an opportunity to come on here and, share the amazing program that we got here tomorrow and also a little bit about my story.
I can't wait to hear it all. The mission itself right here tomorrow, I'm really excited to get into that because all three of us sitting here right now are just overly concerned with suicide prevention, especially when it comes to service members transitioning out. And many of us had to deal with those while we were in, so we can't wait to actually get into hearing what Here Tomorrow does to help in that area. But first, let's talk a little bit about your transition process, Manny. Why you decided to get out, how that transition process worked, and then what led you to what you're trying to do today with Here Tomorrow.
So, like you mentioned, I served 10 years in the Army, close to 10 years, and I was at those crossroads, right? You either do 10 more years to retire, or you try to switch gears and go to something else, right? So I was very at that cusp. I was a staff sergeant looking to get promoted to E7, so I'm first class. Had everything going for me, but I just hit that mental break that a lot of service members, unfortunately do experience when it comes to mental health specifically. So me, myself, like as many others out there, I really did struggle. I really thought that, hey, like I really wish I don't wake up tomorrow type thing. The substances came into play. Alcohol seemed like the number one thing to cope with the pain and just kind of like, all right, let me just numb everything, not talk about it, because unfortunately, being in the service is still a very stigmatized topic when it comes to mental health, right? So all the times, they're like harping on, hey, let's do some suicide awareness training, some ACE training, assist training, all that, right? But under the undertone for all those things is that like, hey, whatever you do say to that behavioral health, that may jeopardize your career, right? So unfortunately, that still may be a thing, and I get it, right? I sat in rooms and for risk assessment meetings and all that. Like I know there's always a risk with what we do in the service, but at the same time, the stigma is very heavy. Where guys they just want to take that stuff home with them, not talk about it. They don't want to put their careers in jeopardy. But then later on, we're a very reactionary force. When something happens to one of our service members, then we're like, okay, where did we go wrong? Like we didn't see the signs, like, so instead of being reactionary, I think, the whole mental health stigma, you really have to have those conversations to where we're proactive about like, hey, let's get the service member like in treatment. All right, let's make sure that they're taken care of, because guess what? The most valuable asset in our military across the board is our people, right? It's our soldiers, our NCOs, our family members, you name it. We got to really put the emphasis on them and make sure that they're doing okay to therefore, do what we do in the military, and that is to accomplish the mission, right? So my transition was that like I didn't see myself doing like 10 more years. I just knew that I just didn't have that fire and that passion in me that I had for so many years leading up to that point where I'm like, I think I'm going to do more harm than good, not only for myself, but for the soldiers and the organization I was going to be a part of. So I just decided to, hey, let's switch gears. Let's transition out. And the transition process, as many know, it's very cutthroat. Like, hey, here's all this info. It's like drinking through a fire hose, and it's like, all right, good luck out there. Unfortunately, for some, mainly the those first time service members, like those young E4s and all that are transitioning out, they don't have the time, right? We're not really taught, like, the resumes and all these things until you're there. And unfortunately, the way your unit or whatever operates, they don't really give soldiers that adequate time to really focus on that transition, because it is a very, very like life altering event that's going to happen to you, and you're not going to know what it is until boom, you're there, right? And that's exactly where I found myself. And how do you guys say, like, don't drown in the sea of transition? Guess what? I'm that guy that was drowning, that had water over me. I'm trying to see, like, what can I do to get my head above water, right? So I knew I didn't want to continue into law enforcement, because that just wasn't a thing that, that was calling for me. The purpose of me serving is to serve others. That's entirely what was my background on. Like, I always wanted to serve other people. That was a decision I made when I enlisted. And also, how can I serve other soldiers? So taking the MP route, although, we don't get a very high rep in the army, but I'll tell you what, man, when people knew I was working, it's all about that community policing. They're like, "Hey, Sergeant Vera's working. Like, anything happens, just give him a call, right?" So it's all about that community policing and to serve other soldiers, right? Transitioning out, I'm like, I need to find something else I can continue doing what I'm doing, not in the law enforcement area, but somewhere else. And what else did I look at? I looked inside of myself. I'm like, I need to do something about my mental health, and what can I do to help others that may be struggling? Because it really is like, you don't know what you don't know when somebody's struggling until they come out. Okay, what do we do from here? So I jumped on Indeed, and I was just shooting my resume out like a freaking M4, man, on just full auto, here, 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 everywhere, hoping something would catch on. And believe it or not, I saw this position for here tomorrow, because I knew I wanted to come back to Jacksonville. I'm originally from the Jacksonville area, so I knew I wanted to go back home, go get some warm weather, some sand and beach in my life. And there was this organization that said the first responder peers position. I'm like, okay, what is this? Right. And after researching the organization, I'm like, okay, this is suicide prevention. Okay, I mean, this is something I can see myself doing. So I shot my resume, shot my shot in the dark. And a few weeks go by, about a week or so, I get a call from my current director, and she's like, hey, so this is what we're wanting to do. We're trying to get this program for first responders and veterans up and going. She gave me a sales pitch, and I was sold, right? But the problem is that I was still almost 3 months away from my actual like transition, my actual final out date, starting terminal leave. And I let them know, I'm like, hey, like, I'm interested in what you guys got going on, but I'm not going to be there until another 2 to 3 months. And she's like, hey, I'll wait for you. And that is something no other employer did for me, or even mentioned, like, hey, they wanted me like then and there, right? Because I got multiple job offers across many different infantry, not infantry, but industry. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know what? I think this may be my calling, right? After discussing it with some very close friends and mentors, are like, hey, I think this is something that you could do and that you will excel at. I mean, think about it. You've been doing this as NCO. When Joe got problems at home or whatever, they come to you, you talk to them, you know how to talk to them, you know how to direct them to the different resources that are available. Like, you've been doing this day in, day out as a leader. So why not do it outside as a civilian? I'm like, okay, cool. You know what? I was sold. So 3 months go by, and then here I am here tomorrow. I was the first veteran hired on this staff, and to date, we got 4 veterans on staff and a retired law enforcement officer, which is our program manager. And it's been really great. And this is I thank my organization every day, because I'm like, hey, you guys definitely helped me. You guys were my lifeline out of that sea of transition. They welcome me with open arms, or like, hey, come on in. And it's the most functional but dysfunctional people I've ever been with. Like, they're very great. I'm telling you, everybody here is amazing. They all have great stories, and you have to have that type of like mindedness to do this type of job, and that is to serve others that may be struggling.
Dude, I love that. Shawn, that kind of sounds like us, right? That functioning dysfunction. That kind of sounds like you and me, buddy. I think I relate to that. Dude, Manny, I, I let you keep talking. I didn't want to. I wanted to stop you. a couple of points because like the level of transparency and authenticity that you just brought through your story, right? What happened is you're getting ready to make a decision at 10 years with what's next, right? Do I re-enlist? Do I go in deaf? Right? That's such a scary word. Do I go in deaf or do I get out? But when you recognize your own mental health struggles, right? And when you acknowledge that, when you started to see what you were doing to cope, right? That's such a vulnerable state. And it's such a real place that so many of us find ourselves at, right? I got there as I was going through transition, right? I had
Mm-hmm.
this great career for 25 years, dude, for a quarter of a century, dude. I carried the ball down the field. And I felt like at the 5 yard line is when I started to fumble it. And I was like, how am I, how? Like, how do I get run after run? And now I'm fumbling it on the 5 yard line. Right. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
my mental health kind of kicked me in the teeth. But dude, the level of authenticity and vulnerability, it's so important that we share those stories. It's
Mm-hmm.
so important that we talk about that. What you guys are doing is so valuable for people like us, right? Our community, because we have to have a safe place to go.
Right.
And we've got to have people who set the example of being vulnerable because that's not a natural state for a lot of us, especially service members,
Mm-mm. No, sir.
right? That's not a natural emotional or mental state for a service member to be in. We've each of us have been, if you've been deployed or if you've been in hard training exercises or if you've been in hard units, it doesn't really matter. It isn't a combat thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
a cultural thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just wake up every morning, you lace up your boots and you go. I
Exactly.
don't care if your back is hurting, you're gonna run. I
Yep.
don't care if your knees are hurting, you're gonna ruck. I don't care if your heart is hurting, you're gonna perform. I don't care if your mind is hurting, you're gonna go, right? And so having organizations like Here Tomorrow for those of us who are still struggling with that, those of us who experience that, I'm I'm gonna stop rambling, dude, because I'm speechless at what you guys do. So I think that's where we want to go next, right? I want to hear more about what the organization does. How does it work? How do we find you? Give me the whole. I want the in-depth dive ins. Let's swim around in it.
Cool. So, let's see. So our founder, right? He was a very well, it currently is. He's a serial entrepreneur, very successful business person, right? He had almost all the resources available to him. He had his son, his only son, that started struggling with mental health. And being a serial entrepreneur, you think that this is an individual that knows everybody. Everybody knows this person, right? And he really did still have barriers to get his son to care,
Mm,
right? To get him into like mental health care. And unfortunately, his son did end up taking his life by suicide. So that is what prompted our founder to be like, okay, if I'm going to do something about this, I need to have an organization that can break down all barriers and make sure that there's nobody else like him and his family that went through something like this. And that through his grief is what gave birth to our organization, right? And we're very much is still a young organization. We've been open for 3 years now, and within the last 6 months, there's been a need for, hey, let's also focus on that other demographic, that veteran first responder demographic. So that's when myself and my program manager Brandon, we got brought on board to do exactly that, right? So what it is, from a nutshell, is that if you've been struggling with your mental health, whether it's suicide ideations, whether it's feeling hopeless, depressed, you name it, right? You could, walk in, you could give us a phone call, you could text, right? No appointments required. You can make an appointment on our website. All it is making sure that, if you need somebody to talk to, we have people here on staff that are trained to talk to you. So everybody here is a peer on the peer staff. And what that is that, we're non clinical, meaning that we're not licensed, right? We can't diagnose you with mental health disorders or anything like that, right? So a non clinical peer is just somebody that, hey, we've been there, right? Let me give you that helping hand and guide you out of that dark place. All right, let's put things into play. Let's focus on your goals, your vision, what they are. Let's help you get there, right? And through that is our peer model, right? So if you call in feeling suicidal, you'll be paired up with a peer, and then we'll be here to support you for a whole calendar year, right?
mm,
And through that, we have support groups in house, right? We have multiple support groups. We have a general support group for 18 plus adults, right? We have a LGBT support group as well. We have a veteran first responder support group as well. And also, we have a new Sounds of Healing support group. So it's just a music therapy support group per se, right? So even if you're not enrolled in our program, our support groups are open to the public. And the majority of them are hybrid. So you could be joining our support group from the comfort of your home. Just a link, join in, and let's talk about your mental health, right? And also through that, we also break those barriers of getting you access to therapy, right? We will pay for your therapy. We will pair you up with a clinician and pay for your therapy. And we see it as an additional layer of care, right? So we're there to support you for a calendar year. You got the support groups in here in our organization, and also we'll pay for your therapy. And we're there to support you while you're on this journey back to recovery.
That's incredible. Now, I know you're in the beautiful city of Jax, right?
Hmm.
That's
That's
first of
right.
all, that I know Shawn, yeah, that's where Shawn is, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you guys have got an incredible veteran community, right? I've got a lot of
Yes.
friends that are down there. Um,
Yes.
you guys have got an incredible veteran community. So I mean, it's a target rich environment, right? There's a lot of us down
Yes.
there. Um, but you said from the comfort of your own home, is this something that someone outside of Jacksonville can take advantage of? Is this something that if I'm up here in Columbus, Georgia, or if I've got a buddy in North Carolina, can I point them in your direction?
Ari, that's a really great question. And of course, right, we do have telehealth services. So wherever you are, in the continental United States, right, we're there to help you, right? I have some clients all the way out to the West Coast from Colorado to Las Vegas that I see, every 2 weeks. And, we really try to do address the barriers of care. Some people may have transportation issues. Some people may be working till 6 p.m. But guess what? We really try to look at all those factors and say, okay, well, guess what? We're going to be open every single day. If weekends is the only time you got available, guess what? We're going to have a peer here on the weekends to help you out. And we have a veteran on
Wow.
staff every single day of the week in case we have that a veteran calling in or whatnot. So to answer your question in short, yes, they could give us a call from wherever they are. Now, what I do want to add though is that when it comes to the therapy portion, our clinicians are only licensed in the state of Florida for Florida
Okay.
residents. Now, that's the only thing that we try to seek out the resources in their local area and see what we could do to get them connected to that. But quite frankly, some people, all they need is just somebody to talk to. They don't need a licensed therapist. They don't need a psychiatrist really. Like they just need somebody to talk to and really like address like how they're feeling and what to do to get them out of that slump, right? And some people just need to come to support group and just be in a group setting talking about their week or whatever the case may be. It really is. Some people that's all they need, right? So let's get them those things that they need.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly cathartic sometimes to sit down with people of like mind, like background, and to hear that
Mhm.
I'm not the only one that suffered. Like I'm not the only one that's struggling. I'm not the only one that's having a hard day, right? And not only am I not the only one that's having a hard day, but as I'm in the middle of my hard day, I'm looking at Manny and Manny's telling his story, and I'm like, well, there's victory. So victory's
Mhm.
possible, right? Hope is there and victory's possible. That's There's power in that, man. Like real power.
Yeah,
So
I think you said it beautifully, man. That's the whole gist of what we do here. Is to let you know that hey, you're not alone, right? That's what's unique about our peer model is that we're required to have that lived experience, whether it's with mental health, substances, whatever you name it, right? We have somebody here that have a similar lived experience as you, and they're going to be with you to support you throughout that whole calendar year.
I love that.
Oh yeah, amazing mission, and I know you're not the serial entrepreneur that started the company, but can you give us any insight or thoughts into where Here Tomorrow may be going? Are we looking to expand the reach, the locations? What kind of thoughts maybe do you guys have going on at the business?
Yeah, so we got a lot of things that are upcoming, but I'm a firm believer that in order to have a skyscraper, you need a solid foundation, right? So
Come
let's
on.
lay out that foundation first, and then let's build upon that and see where we can take this, right? So we really are in the process of laying out a strong foundation where we are and try to replicate this program in other areas of the state. And who knows, 5 years from now, we may be nationwide, right? So there's always a vision and like let's put little things into play and get there. So what's upcoming for us is that a lot of people are like, "Hey, do you guys service youth? You guys service teenagers? Like, we got to, my son is 16. He's struggling with his mental health. Like, can you help him?" Right here in the near future, we are implementing a teen program. So we will be servicing 13 to 17-year-olds that may be struggling, that may be having suicidal ideations, that may be hopeless. You could bring them here, and then they'll have a teen peer, a youth peer to help them out. So
That's
that is something
awesome.
that is upcoming. That's very exciting. A lot of people in the community are like, "Hey, like, do you service children?" Like, "Hey, my teen, my daughter, whatever." And it really sucks when I'm on the phone. I'm like, "Hey, at this time we do not, but guess what? I'm still going to try to connect you to resources, right?" So we never turn nobody away, right? We really try to give them that space and that time for them to express themselves. And if we can't help them here, we'll point them in the right direction or refer them out to somebody that may help them with their situation.
That's beautiful. I love that, man. What an exciting future. What an exciting way to expand this. You're right. Like, let's I don't know about you, man, but you couldn't pay me enough to go back and be a teenager today. Like, there's not a dollar amount that I would accept to go back. Today's kids are under fire, bro.
Yes.
Society's got them under fire. I mean, these kids are they're under attack, and so having a safe place for them to sit down with a peer and again experience that vision of hope and that experience of victory, I think is incredible. What about volunteer opportunities, either for local folks there in Jax or for the veterans that are living in the U.S.? Where How can we get involved? How do we help us?
Okay, so first thing is that what you brought up earlier, Jacksonville is a very veteran-rich community, right? We got three naval bases. We got a lot of veterans in this community, and with that, we have veteran organizations, VFW, American Legion, you name it, right? We're very close partners with American Legion here in Jax Beach, right? So if you're in Jax Beach area, go to Post 129. Those guys are awesome. Anytime they need something or I need something from them, those guys are like, "Hey, what can we do to support you?" Right. So, um, reach out to those veteran organizations. I got brought on to this. I met Shawn through a veteran networking organization called Vets on Tap. I know Will's been on the podcast early on. So get involved in things like that and just get the word out, right? So we're on social media, share, and we're only as strong individually than we are as a group, right? So it's really a community effort to get the word out of what we're doing. Now with the volunteers, funny enough, we do have a few volunteers that does help pick up the phones for us. But here in the near future, the goal is to have anytime we have a veteran event upcoming, right? Let's get those veterans and first responder volunteers to come help us out and just come just spread the word. So that is upcoming once we get our volunteer program nailed down, and that is something that I'm excited about. I love going to these events, tabling at these events and all that, but it would be really great to have those volunteers out there with us promoting what we do. And also, we're nonprofits, so all of our services I stated is at no cost to anybody receiving our services. But how can we continue our mission is through the generous donations of donors, of individuals, of groups. So if you do have the means and you're feeling very giving, right, you could always go to our website and just donate or reach out to me. If you're in the local area, hey, if you're a veteran and you're interested about donating to us, we'll bring you in, give you a tour, and whatever you want to give, every dollar matters, and every dollar is gonna help us push and continue our mission, and that is to help out anybody that may be struggling with their mental health in our
I
area and
love it.
beyond.
I'm gonna tell you, dude. Here tomorrow. Just got a new follower on IG, bro. I got you.
Hey, our IG is very popular. Shout out to our outreach coordinator, Maya. She does an amazing job, and just watch out for what she's going to be posting on Monday on 9/11. Some
I'm
juicy
Oh,
looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. You guys got another follower, and I'm gonna make sure I pass it on.
awesome. Thank you guys.
Eric's trying to fit in with the younger crowd. He's all into it.
I just know where they're at, man. Listen, if we're here to help people, dude, we got to go where they're at,
Oh,
right?
I know, and that's why I let people like you that are young and hip, lead me to where everybody's
I don't know if those are words I would use for myself, but
at. Yeah. So we have a fantastic veteran support network here in Jackson, like several cities that I've been to.
hmm
San Antonio is another one that always comes to mind. And so the fact that we have so many actual organizations that are started here or exist here is really amazing to me. And like you said, we met at Vets on Tap. You get out to the different events and you're always talking to people. You're always, trying to, get a feel, get people's stories. And that's what it's about. Because a lot of times at these networking events, people just want to talk. They may show up, hoping that something more may happen, a job offer, or, meeting a potential lead to get a job. But there's so many that I've seen that literally just want to sit and talk. They want to, have that camaraderie again that they had in the service. And, it's just awesome that you guys essentially have taken that to a whole new level, and you guys offer that service to people when they really need it. And, you got two retired first sergeants here that, have dealt with this topic, while
Mhm.
in service. And it's just one of those that always hits close to home and is so important. And to see after people leave the military still struggling and still having those demons
Mhm.
they have to fight. So thankful that there's organizations like Here Tomorrow that are actually trying to help people, get through their issues and continue to move forward. And I applaud you for
Mhm.
the efforts you guys have going on down
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
tell
you.
you too. Like Shawn said, right? Two retired first sergeants, but I also have two sons that are currently serving. Right, so I got two sons that are currently in the army, and having walked that life, right, having walked that path ahead of them, I know what it's like to be a specialist. Right, I know what it's like to have your NCO pissed off at you. I know what it's like to have
Yeah.
hard days. Like I remember those days. So, like Shawn said, dude, just knowing that somebody's out there, and I'll just as a dad, right, like knowing that somebody's out there that my kid can turn to, that's priceless to me, dude. That's
Yeah.
priceless to me.
Exactly. And what I want to add too is that, we also serve as active duty, right? So you don't have to be a veteran. We don't care about what your discharge status was because a lot of these organizations, they do great work, but they also want like, hey, like, let me see your D-214. I need to check that honorable discharge status. We don't care about none of that, right? If you serve, you put a uniform on, like we're here to serve you. If you're a regular civilian in the population, we're here to serve you as well. And also, we're confidential. That is something that I think any service member that's serving today, it's like I need to get a hold of these guys because like we don't report to your chain of command, right? So if
Right.
you really do need a space to talk to somebody that understands that what you're going through, we got people on staff that could really talk to you and all that, and we're 100% confidential. So I think that's something that's unique to address too.
there.
I
Always,
love that.
always so important to have outside resources. you
Hmm.
know and I know that the military does a lot of things to try to bring in outside resources to a certain extent, but I think since the chain of commands are doing it, there's still that lack of trust, that eventually it'll get back to them and things like that. To have an actual nonprofit out there that doesn't care what your status is, if you need
Hmm.
help, call them. Absolutely love it. We
Exactly.
we are coming down to time again, man. This one went fast. This went
I
fast.
could listen to Manny talk all day, bro.
You come down here for a Vets on Tap event.
I should. I need to get down to Jack's. I need to get
Yeah.
some sun. I mean, Columbus, Georgia's sunny, but like there's no water here, and I miss the water.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a bit more water down here. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
man. Get some sun. It's pretty cool down here, man. There's a lot to do.
so, real quick, Manny, what do you want to leave the audience with?
I just want to let them know that, hey, if you're out there and you've had thoughts about not being alive, you've been struggling, you know, just know that you're not alone. You could reach out to us, and it's okay not to be okay, and it's also okay to get some help, and that's what we're here to do, and that's what I do. So we're here for you.
Awesome. Absolutely love that. Love what you guys got going on, and can't wait to see where we go in the future. Eric, you want to take us out?
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I just want to make sure our listeners understand something. If you are a veteran who knows somebody, if you are a family member who has a veteran who has an active duty member who has a first responder who needs help, don't sit back and watch. Do something. Encourage them, offer up this resource. Here tomorrow's a resource, but they're only a resource if
Mhm.
they're used. And to our listeners
Exactly.
who might find themselves in a position to be able to financially contribute, Manny said it best. We cannot continue without generous donations. So if you're an organization, if you are an individual, if you are somebody who's listening who says, you know what, my family struggled with that, I've experienced that, and you need somewhere to throw a dollar to help another person out, keep these guys in mind, reach out to them. All right. Manny, I'm a huge fan, bro. Just because I lived this story, you know what I mean? I walked this. So I'm really happy for you. I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you were on the show, dude. And I'm here. You let me know how I can help, dude. I got your back. As for the rest of our family, like Shawn said, we've come to the end of our episode. Thank you for turning into the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, please, please, please do not drown in the sea of transition. Reach out and grab the VET S.O.S left line. Y'all have a great day.